I am so excited for this final session with you all, and I'm a little sad that it is the final one. But as Lizzie said, if you enjoyed this and find it of value, which I of course hope you do, then please let us know, because I would love to be back to bring you more offerings like this in the future. I am the founder of an online yoga platform, and as well as an online yoga membership platform. And with these things combined, I have 7 years of experience with online yoga, with teaching online, with building an online yoga business. And it is through this lens, in addition to my decade plus experience as a teacher and as someone who has hosted so many workshops and retreats and things like that, I've brought all of this knowledge and all of this background experience into this course. And while today's class does somewhat build off of our last 2 classes, do not worry if you haven't attended either of the previous ones. You're still going to get a lot out of today. I'm going to revisit a couple quick points from our last session together. And as you know, all of these classes are being recorded so that you can access them afterward. So to start, as Lizzie said, please make sure that you've got a journal or something to take notes with. It's great to have a nice big glass of water. You'll see I'm just hydrating away over here. I'm in Tucson. It is hot and allergy season. So we're just moving with it today, guys. But anyway, we are going to begin our class today with some breath work to help us get grounded and present in our minds and our bodies. All right, so find a nice comfortable seat, and this can be in a chair, this can be on the floor on your yoga mat or meditation cushion. And let's just take 3 nice deep breaths just like that to start. Deep inhales through the nose, open mouth, sigh it out. One more. So good. That little shift right there, right? That's a type of breath work I will do in the grocery store, during traffic. It's a great one you could do anywhere. But now we're going to bring our hands to rest in our laps. You can place your palms down on your knees or hands resting in your lap. And if you feel comfortable to close your eyes, you can do so. Otherwise, just let your eyes unfocus as you take a nice soft gaze in front of you. With every inhale now, begin to lengthen up your spine. Feel as if the breath that you take in is helping you to grow taller. And with every exhale now, send your breath back out as if you're sending it back into the ground beneath you. And then pull that air back into your lungs, straightening, growing tall through the spine, and just bring yourself through this mindful inhalation, exhalation through the nose. Becoming aware of the points of your body that are connected to the floor beneath you. Perhaps it's the bottom of your feet. And as you bring that awareness to these points in your body, feel that connection of your body to the earth. In a very physical sense, our conscious and intentional breathing helps us to find this sense of grounding, this sense of connection, both to the earth and also to ourselves, to our bodies, to our breath, to our present moment awareness. Continuing to breathe deeply, fully, and levelly. Just begin to check in with your body, noticing if there are any areas of tension, and just sending your loving breath there. Noticing any areas that feel great. And send your breath there. Our breath is at once healing and also a gateway to our consciousness. Good. And now from here, We'll just add a simple round of box breathing. And so we're just going to breathe in for a count of 5. Hold for a count of 2. Breathe out for a count of 5. And hold out for a count of 2. Inhaling for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Holding 2. Exhaling 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Holding for 2. Inhaling for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Holding for 2. And exhaling for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Holding for 2. And then on your own, we'll go for 2 more rounds. Breathing in for 5, holding for 2, breathing out for 5, and holding for 2. Once you've finished your rounds, there's no rush. You'll simply allow your breath to fall back into its natural rhythm as you continue to guide your focal point of your mind's awareness to the flow of your breath, to the sense of connection of your body to the earth. And also your focal point focus of this beautiful shared moment in space and time that we have together here. This beautiful collective and connective energy that we are sharing and exchanging with our time together here today. We'll just be here a little longer. So really allow yourself to fully immerse in this moment, giving yourself this gift of pause. When you're ready, let's take a deep breath in together through the nose and an open mouth. If your eyes are closed, you can softly begin to open them as we bring some awareness back to the body, maybe some gentle head and neck rolls. Good. Maybe just a few seated cat-cows, rounding and arching your spine, just bringing some movement and breath back into your body. Maybe some shoulder rolls. All right. Well, I hope that you are all feeling nice and grounded after that. That was a juicy one for me, if I may just share. You know how sometimes when you take a seated meditation and feels like it's just enough to be able to breathe for a few moments of stillness, and then other times where you feel really plugged in and really tuned in. That was me today. So I hope that you enjoyed and that felt good for you. Sometimes when I'm meditating, and I'll offer this up just out of curiosity, if anyone can relate or if it's had a similar experience, please share it in the comments. I will begin to feel either very, very small in the space, like I am a pinpoint, or I'll feel very, very large, as if I am bigger than the entire space that I am in. And today, so please let me know if you've had any experience or if you're like, what are you even talking about, Ashton? But today was interesting because as I was guiding us through, it was almost like I was experiencing both this expansion and contraction within the space. So just had to share that quick reflection. So it's always nice to open. Thank you, Rachel. Appreciate you. And yes, I can see your comments as you're sharing them. Thank you for the hearts and the hellos. So please feel free to comment and interject with comments, questions, anything about this time that we have together, okay? It's always so great to begin any type of practice or class with some grounding. And it's a great reminder for us teachers because I don't always do, but when I do, I can tell that I am better able to show up presently, as are my students. So, all right, my friends, let's dive on in. In today's part 3 session, we are going to be discussing how to get your offerings on track. So getting our offerings on track as teachers is very important to our overall business and our branding as said teachers, because it all informs what exactly we're going to be talking about and how in which we're going to be talking about it. I'm just kind of rearranging slightly here so I can grab my notebook. So the first thing when we want to talk about our offerings and getting them on track, we want to revisit our why. Our why behind it is what we're doing. Now, if you were here for part 2, our last class together, we really deep dived our why. We really dove into why it is we're doing what we're doing. And that leads into our mission statement. And so when we are able to revisit our why along with our mission statement, we're now ready to consider or maybe reevaluate our offerings. So before we dive into that though, as a great refresher for everyone from session 2, and for any of you who were not with us for session 2, I want to quickly go back and revisit the why, because this to me is the core of our teaching. The why of why are we doing what we're doing? What brought you to this place as a teacher to begin with? And now as we evolve as teachers, does that why change? Last time I spoke about having a personal credo. And our credo is sort of like our mission statement for life, if you will, because it is our guiding principles, beliefs, and values. And when we can remain really clear on what those are, we are able to act from them. And they become sort of our moral compass and our ability to make decisions from that place of, well, is this in alignment with my credo? So for example, for me, some of my points, because as a credo, you can write it as a sentence, a paragraph, or you can just do a bullet point list of your values, your core beliefs, and all of these things. One of my guiding principles in life as a human being, as a teacher, and as an entrepreneur is living from integrity. If I am living from integrity, then I am filtering all of my decisions, all of the opportunities that come across my desk through the lens of, is this in integrity? Is this in alignment with my integrity and the way that I operate? Will I remain in integrity if I say yes to this opportunity? If I take this particular action? So integrity for me is the core of my credo and my values. And so every year, and I just share this because it's a really great practice and maybe it will inspire something in all of you, or maybe some of you are already doing this, but every year on my birthday, I will set aside time in the morning to write out my credo. And sometimes it's pretty similar to what it was the previous year. And sometimes it has completely shifted. So it's always very interesting and important to remember that we are ever evolving beings, or at least I hope we are, right? And so with that, we change, we evolve. And so our why, our mission statement of teaching, it might change and evolve, or maybe it remains the same and then we deepen from there, we specialize and we get more niche and more detailed offerings from there. So it can go either way and there's no right or wrong answer. But again, getting really clear on your why is so important. And that leads us to our mission statement. And so just like with any business that starts, it begins with, let's get really clear on our mission statement. What are we here to do? Who are we? And how are we going to do it? And so again, if you didn't take the class 2 yet, or if you haven't had a chance to write down your mission statement, just make a little note to think about that and to revisit that. So make sure there's no questions so far. Great. Okay. So let me know if you have any questions about that. I just wanted to give a little brief overview before we continue here. So we're talking about our offerings. When we revisit our why, along with our mission statement, we're now ready to either consider if we are newer teachers or just starting to develop our offerings, or reevaluate our current offerings if we already have them established. So these are some rhetorical questions that you can either jot down a few notes on as I ask, or you can write down the question itself to revisit and think about and reflect on more. So the first one is, what are your current offerings? So for most of us, you can pretty quickly analyze, okay, I'm offering A, B, C. All right, so what are those current offerings that you have? Just kind of keeping those in mind. Are you satisfied with your current offerings and how they are being presented? Are you satisfied with your current offerings and how they are being presented? So the first part of the question, that's relatively straightforward. Are your current offerings in alignment with what you want to be offering, with your why and with your mission statement? But from there, how are they being presented? And this could be approached at from a lot of different angles. Perhaps it's from a branding or a rebranding angle, right? How are they being presented? I just got off the phone right before our webinar with a dear friend of mine who's a fellow teacher and has an incredible yoga business that she's been running for years. And she just recently went through a rebrand and it was a major one, not just changing the colors and designs on her website. She changed her entire name. And so I was talking to her a little bit about it, and she said she checked in with herself, and internally she felt there was this resistance. It was no longer serving, her credo, and it was no longer in alignment with her offerings and what she wanted to show up as in the world. And so it was really powerful for her to do a rebrand, and it really ultimately served her overall business, but more importantly, her students, her following, and her purpose in what she's doing. So again, how your offerings are being presented. Perhaps that is a question of, am I branding these properly? Is my messaging clear? Is my messaging as clear, direct, but also worded in a way that is in alignment with my values, with my brand, with my offerings, with my students, with the type of students that I want to attract? So again, just thinking about this, we're going to be diving in more, but these are initial questions to just get you considering where you are currently. Now, do you want to add more offerings? This is our next question. Do you want to add more offerings? Do you want to whittle down your current offerings? Or do you feel like you're right where you need to be? Because oftentimes what happens is we either take on so much, we get really excited, we've done a lot of trainings, and we say, hey, I can offer, right, all of these different offerings. So maybe over time we decide, maybe I want to specialize in a couple of these and niche down as a result on those offerings that I'm going to specialize in. Or perhaps maybe you have one key offering and now you're ready to expand. Or maybe you're right where you need to be and you're like, yeah, I'm feeling pretty happy. Well, that's great too. This is all just to, yes, I can repeat these. This is all just to kind of get more clear on what it is that you're offering and what it is that we can change, improve, augment, and so forth. Okay, can you repeat those questions in the last bullet point? Yes, and thank you, Heidi, of course. Okay, the last bullet. Do you want to add more offerings, whittle down your current offerings, or do you feel like you're right where you need to be? So really what that question is, are you in a place where you could add more and that would be of service to you? Or are you in a place where maybe it's time to remove a few and get more clear and concentrated on those? Or are you listening to these questions thinking, okay, good, this makes me feel good about where I'm at? Okay, I'm going to move on, but again, just hit me in the comments if you have any questions as we go. All right. So now is the time where you are going to get out your journals. So the first 2 classes, we would do sort of a workshop and then a practice or vice versa. This one is fun because it's kind of interactive and we're weaving it all together. All right. So grab your journals. And now we're going to deeper dive our current offerings. So to start, let's list them out. So this is your time to actually briefly list out your current offerings. So I'll give you a moment to do that while I address this question. Yeah, awesome question, Elizabeth. So Elizabeth asked a question, and if you're still writing, no worries, keep going. And if you're done, perfect, you can just chime in or tune into this question. Do you think business could be as good just offering one specialty? Absolutely. Many people do. Many people really do focus on one thing. And if you choose to go that route, the goal is to do it as good as possible, right? So to really flesh out your marketing, to really get clear on that offering, to, deepen it, to offer, maybe create community around it. You add dimensions into that one offering. Absolutely. So specializing in one offering is by no means bad. None of these questions are to say that one thing is better than the other, that one choice is right and the other choice is wrong. There's a million different directions that we can take our businesses. That's what's so exciting, but that's also what can be so daunting, which is why it's great to have conversations like this. So if you are a type of person where you're wanting to offer one thing or specialize in just one thing, it's important to just do that to the best of your ability. And it might even be a great place to start because it helps you to do that one thing really, really well before you add on. Because what happens sometimes is and I've done this is personal experience, so learn from me and don't make my mistakes again, is I'm the type that I want to do everything, I want to take everything on, and I wanted it done yesterday. That's unhealthy, it's unrealistic, but that's just true. And what happens is everything I am doing, excuse my French, but I'm kind of half-assing, right? Because I don't have the time, the bandwidth, the energy, all of these things to take it on and to do it in a way that's going to be quality. And so if anything, if you're feeling overwhelmed by all the offerings you have, maybe start with one, focus in on it, really finesse it, and then move on to the next, if that makes sense. Okay, so we've listed out our offerings. Which offerings, next question, which offerings complement your other offerings? So for example, Elizabeth, who just asked if having one offering is good enough for the business, perfect. Maybe Elizabeth now decides down the road that she's going to add a second offering. Maybe she wants to make sure that offering kind of complements the other one. So if her students took the first, they loved it, well, now they have something else to follow up with or to add on to. So which offerings complement your other offerings? And in addition to that question, are there any that don't fit? So which offerings complement your other offerings? And out of that list, are there any that don't fit? So as you're thinking about that, I'm a person who learns through examples. I'll offer an example for if there's anyone out there who's like me. So let's say that you are a fitness coach and you have 10 fitness programs on your site. Well, in your past, you were also really into style. I'm trying to think of a funny example here. And so your 11th offering is completely unrelated to fitness. And maybe that doesn't fit, or maybe it no longer makes sense to keep in your current list of offerings. So think about that. The next question, are there any offerings that you would like to dive deeper into? For example, if you love teaching prenatal yoga, would you be interested in taking the necessary steps to offer postnatal yoga or baby and me yoga so that your students can stay with you and continue to practice with you post-baby? So the question was, are there any offerings that you would like to dive deeper into? Okay, from here, these next questions are where our mindfulness practice, like the meditation that we started with, come into play, because you want to be able to feel into this, to feel into these answers. Which from your offerings most lights you up? Which from your current offerings most lights you up? Excites you, you feel proud of, you love to talk about it, you love to do it. Taking that question a little deeper, why? Why does it light you up so much? And a reminder, this is a fun guided journaling exercise for you to get clear on what feels good, maybe what doesn't, what's aligned, what might be not in alignment anymore. There's no right or wrong answers is the point. And you're not going to be asked to share unless you want to. So no one's going to see this but you. So totally safe place for you to write everything down, be really honest, be really open, and know that it's for your eyes only. So which of your offerings most lights you up and why? Good. Now, inversely, our next question is, are there any of your offerings that no longer feel aligned? Are there any of your offerings that no longer feel aligned? And that's where that question from earlier came in of if there are any that maybe didn't fit. And yes, exactly, Elizabeth. So it's fun to deep dive an offering and to see if you can create more from it, if you can create a lead into it, a follow up after it. It's a fun approach. Okay. I know you can too. So I'll keep moving on, but if anyone wanted more time, you can just ask me in the comments if you needed any of those questions repeated or anything like that. But now we're going to discuss potential additional or future offerings. So in any business, it's important to have your 1, 3, and 5-year goals and vision mapped out in your mind. And so we can apply this to the potential additional or future offerings that you want to add to your teaching portfolio. And so based on where you want to be in your teaching career 1 year from now, what, if any, offerings should you consider adding, removing, or shifting? So before we get too deep into that, just start thinking about it. Let's revisit the vision for the future. So this is more of a rhetorical question, but of course you can jot down some notes. What is your 1-year vision from now? And oh man, this is when I wish that we were all in person together and had like the whole day together, because I would love to hear each of your answers to this, and feel free to share them in the comments so I can. No pressure. So where do you see yourself in 1 year? What is your 1-year goal for your yoga business? And oftentimes in business, I get asked, what is your 10-year vision? And that feels really daunting, So I like to keep it more approachable at 1, 3, and 5 years. If you're a long-term planner and you want to do 1, 5, and 10 years, awesome. But the main thing is to simply be mindful of this in your head, because I get it. I get it. You're like, Ashton, I got the certification. I'm doing the ongoing trainings. I'm building my student list. I'm creating my brand, got my website going. I'm talking about my offerings. There is so much to think about. There's so much to think about in the present moment. So it's a lot to also consider the future. But a term I love is reverse engineering, right? I love to reverse engineer something from the end result back to the beginning where we are now, because this really helps us get clear on what we want to do in the now that sets us up for success as we hit those 1 and 3 and 5 and, my goodness, maybe even 10-year markers, right? So again, thinking about your 1-year vision. How about your 3-year? That's a good number, right? I love that number, 3 years. 3 years is a long time. And then in retrospect, it feels like it goes by fast. But 3 years, you can get a lot done. You can really get a lot done. So where do you want to be in 3 years? And then 5. So I'm just going to give you another minute to sit with that. And really, it's a reflection. But of course, if you're writing it down, great. Cool. Thank you for sharing, Kate. I love that vision for you. And tell me when you do it, because I'm all over it. I'll be your first client. Okay. So that is a lovely thing to think about, that if you're like, wait, don't move on, I want to keep thinking about it. Perfect. Jot down what is my 1, 3, and 5-year vision and come back to that and write more on that later today. Reflect on it throughout the week, right? This is an ongoing practice. But based on where you want to be in your teaching career 1 year from now, so we're taking it back to the 1-year mark, what, if any, because maybe it won't be any, but what, if any, offerings should you consider adding, but also removing and maybe shifting? So are there any offerings based on where you want to be from 1 year from today that you should consider adding, that you don't have yet, removing from your current offerings list, or shifting, kind of giving a overhaul or an evolution? So that's a good one to write down some ideas. And then the same question now we can apply to the 3 and 5-year plan, or 5 and 10 years, if that makes more sense for you. But same question. So based on where you want to be in your teaching career 3 years from now or 5 years from now, what, if any, offerings would you consider adding, removing, or shifting from what you have currently? All right, so we're going to keep moving. But again, if you're the one who you feel like you want more time, then that's awesome. Just make sure you're writing down the questions so you can revisit and fill in later, because that's great. let's move on to now an honest inventory of alignment. So, you know the saying, as yoga teachers, I'm sure we've all heard it, that your energy introduces you. And so when I say an honest inventory of alignment, what I'm meaning is what we're doing in authentic alignment with ourselves, with our mission statement, our why, and our values. Because when it's not, it doesn't feel great, right? And that is something that is palpable. So that's what we're going to think about right now. Thinking about, are there any areas where you're just kind of going through the motions in your teaching career? Are there any areas where you're just kind of going through the motions? Maybe you're doing something just to do it. And that's not an accusation. And if you are, you're not doing anything wrong, but just becoming aware, because as teachers, the longer that we are in our teaching career, the more time that we have for things to shift, for our mindset to shift, interests, priorities. And these are thoughts for reflection. So you can think on them or you can jot them down. But the next one is, are you feeling burnt out at all or feeling stale or uninspired at all in your teaching? I feel that most, if not every teacher goes through phases where we ebb and flow, right? And we feel so inspired and so plugged in and so aligned. And then we can ebb and flow to a different state where we might feel completely exhausted, totally burnt out and uninspired or stagnant. And we really deep dived this in our first class when we talked about the importance of maintaining our personal practice and how key that is for keeping not just our personal practice and therefore our wellness, a priority, but it also keeps us inspired. It feeds us and it fills our cup so that we can in turn come back and show up fully for our students, for our community. And so if you are feeling burnt out or uninspired or any of these things in your teaching, perhaps it's from, a lack of personal practice and prioritization, or perhaps it's from what we've been talking about today, some of these offerings no longer being in authentic alignment with you, and that's okay. And finally, based on everything we've talked about thus far, do you feel the need to specialize more? Do you feel the need to niche down, either overall as a teacher or specifically within your offerings? And if you did answer yes to this last question, how can you and what would that look like? And you don't have to have the answer. You could be like, well, Ashton, I don't know. If I knew, I wouldn't be here. but how can you start that journey is the question. How can you get to that place? The fact that you're here, that you are taking a class like this, amazing. It means that you are already showing up and doing the work and that these answers are already speeding your way because you're taking action. You're taking steps to get there. Having a mentor is huge. Having someone that you can reach out to and ask these questions is so important. And I'm genuinely that person. If any of you are like, I don't have that, I didn't have it either for a long time. And it wasn't great. I felt very alone. I felt like I was on my own island. And I don't wish that for anyone. As someone who has been in the industry and has ran my business for so long now, I find immense joy in showing up for and being of support to other teachers. So thank you for allowing me to do that today. So just again, thinking, do you need to niche down in any way? And if so, how can you? And what would that look like? And again, maybe that's not the answer of, oh, well, this is what I'm going to do to niche down, but what are the steps that you'll take to get there? All right. So this brings us to the auditing of our offerings and our messaging. So this is like the key piece of this class. So Now we're going to start. We listed our offerings already, I know. But list your top or your main 3 to 5 offerings. So start by listing your main 3 to 5 offerings. And if you only have 1 or 2, that's fine. Just list them. And as you're doing that, I see a couple questions I'm just going to address really quick. So just really fast, yes, as a reminder, thank you, Loretta, for asking. All of the sessions will be available since you registered and you're attending the 3rd. All 3 are available to watch, and Lizzie will follow up with the recording information. And Lizzie, if you have anything to add, you can share in the comments. And the other question is a great one, Jennifer, and I'm going to address it at the end. It's a really good one. Thank you. Thank you, Loretta. Okay, so now that you've listed your main 3 to 5 offerings, brain dump time. We are going to brain dump 20 or 25 words. Yes, 20 or 25 words that describe your teaching and your business as a whole. I'm saying brain dump here because don't overthink it. Whatever comes to mind, get it out on the page. And that's why it's such a high number too. If you don't like it, if you feel like it's not completely accurate, it's okay. Just put it down and keep writing. Brain dump. Brain dump 20 to 25 words that describe your teaching and your business as a whole. Thank you, Rhea. That's a beautiful question that I will address at the end. Okay, I'll give you 1 more minute here. And if it's helpful as a reminder, we are auditing your offerings and your messaging. So the first half was mainly focused on your offering, and now we're kind of pivoting and focusing on your messaging behind your offering. So these words are connected to your offering, right? So the way in which that you are messaging about your offering publicly. Thank you for that question, Elizabeth. Ooh, great questions, y'all. Yeah, we're gonna have a nice juicy Q&A at the end. Okay. So again, you can always come back and finish that. Now we're going to brain dump words that best describe each of your offerings. So just 10 words that best describe each of your offerings. So maybe you want to make a little column, offering 1, 10 words, offering 2, 10 words, offering 3, 10 words. These are adjectives, or these are words that convey the essence, the purpose, or the takeaway of your offerings. So just 10 words for each of your offerings that best embody or describe your offerings through the lens of their purpose, their function, their takeaway. And I love seeing all of your engagement. Thank you. And it's also really nice to see all these different backgrounds of teachers. We've got some that haven't yet taught a public class, some that have been teaching for a while, some that are right in between. So it's really nice to see the blend, and the the passion behind everything is really inspiring, you guys. Thank you. I'm giving you a little longer on this one. This was a beefy one. And if you haven't gotten to your final offerings yet, take this little last bit of time to at least jot down a few words for them, and then you can revisit after. Good. Okay. Now, the final thing to consider based on everything that we've written down and reflected on so far today is to consider anything from your current messaging that may feel a bit outdated or no longer accurate or relevant or as poignant to your current or revamped offerings as what you just listed here. So consider anything from your current existing messaging. And by the way, even if you don't have a website, right? Messaging in an Instagram post, messaging on a Facebook post, messaging in an email that you send. However it is that you are communicating publicly and or with your students, this is the messaging. So anything from your current messaging that may feel a bit outdated or no longer accurate or relevant or as poignant to your current or revamped offerings. So that's just more of a reflection, but getting clear on, again, taking it all the way back to the beginning, getting clear on your why, formulating a mission statement that you can revisit and revise as needed, and then working from that to establish what it is that you want to offer, and also to audit your current offerings along with your messaging, the way in which you are sharing about these offerings. So one last time, just taking this away to consider from your current messaging anything that is no longer relevant or as accurate to your current or your revamped offerings you would like to change up a bit. Now, the final thing that I'll share before we open it up for Q&A is the reminder, because as yoga teachers, we all need this reminder and are worthy of this reminder often. You have the opportunity to create a profound impact on your students' lives. And knowing this, may you feel empowered and motivated to be vocal in sharing your gifts. Promote your offerings from a place of knowing that this is helping people, and this helps you flip the perspective or the focus so that you're being of service, right? Because I know that for many of us, myself included, I struggled with this for so long, my friends. It can be hard to be in the public spotlight and say, hey, everyone, it's me. Please support me, take my class, pay for my class. You know, all these things, it can be a lot. But when we can remain grounded in the fact that we are showing up and being of service, and that we are here to share the gift of yoga and to help people feel better, live a better life, this will hopefully motivate you and help you to be vocal and to share your gifts, because in so doing, you are helping others. So remember that. As a yoga instructor, it's also important to take your practice off the mat and into your life, practicing and spreading kindness, compassion, awareness, and empowerment. And in so doing, we give others permission to do the same. So know that you're very, very immensely valued and valuable, and that you're making a difference, and that your work is very important. So thank you for being here with me today and throughout this series, because it means that you are showing up, that you are a teacher who is here taking your teaching seriously, and that's amazing. And I'm honored to be on this journey with you, so thank you. Now, I'm going to turn it over to questions because there were some great ones that came through, and I want to make sure that we have time to hit them all. Now, I'm going to go back up to where they started. So, yes, here we go. All right. Jennifer, sorry to call you out. Jennifer asked, when you decide to shift your offerings, is it necessary to telegraph that shift to your existing client base? Do you need to explain the why of these changes to others? When you decide to shift your offerings, is it necessary to telegraph? So no, it's not necessary. It really depends on how you already interact with your following, for one, with your existing client base. If you are the type that you communicate with them often and you share all of your updates and they have come to expect that from you, then absolutely, because to not share it would be inconsistent with how you've already been with them. If you are less hands-on and less communicative and don't always reach out with every single update, then if you're not feeling like you're needing to or wanting to share the changes, then by no means you don't have to. It's not wrong for you to not. It's just that most times it is of value to you to be vocal in sharing that, because it's another opportunity for you to say, hey, I'm reaching out because I have some exciting news. I have decided to. So now it's just one more opportunity for engagement, for them to be reminded of you and of their support and love for you. So I would say, the black and white of it is, I would recommend that, yes, if you have an opportunity to share it with them in a way that is impactful, then do. But if that's not consistent with how you've already been operating and you feel that you don't really want to make that change, then you don't need to. And that's totally fine. So I hope that helped, Jennifer. And I hope that helped everyone, because thank you all for your questions. They help everyone in the room, because I'm sure other people are wondering the same thing or feeling valued in hearing about it. Now, Rhea, I hope I'm saying your name correctly, love. For those of us that teach yoga in addition to a full-time job, do you suggest we follow the same process? And thank you. You're very welcome. Thank you for being here today. When you have a full-time job and you're teaching on the side, it does change your business. For many teachers who are teaching on the side, it's more of they have several weekly classes at a local studio, or they've got a YouTube channel where they upload their content when they can, whatever that might look like. You're absolutely right, Rhea, that it's not always going to be the same process, from the standpoint of you might not have the time, from the standpoint of it might not be your full-on business, and as opposed to having a full platform, it's more of, you're teaching at a few local studios and so forth. Overall, though, I do suggest the same process. Maybe it's a little bit pared down. Maybe it's a little more streamlined, because again, you're not going as in depth. I don't know exactly your background of how much you are teaching and how much you want to be going forward. But the same streamlined approach, this process though, will still help you. It will help you to refine your voice as a teacher. It will help you to find your community of students and continue growing that base. It will also just help you be clear on where you want to go from here with it. Is this something that you want to pursue more full-time in the future when your time allows? Are you perfectly content with where you are right now? So those are the type of questions to bring into your lens of if you're doing this more part-time, as I was for years and years, and I totally understand that. So that was a great question. Thank you. And as I'm answering these, if y'all have follow-up questions or anything, of course, please feel free. Elizabeth, another great question. You asked a lot about restorative, but you prefer a hot power flow. You're not sure how to build up when you're not being authentic. Well, you know what, love? I think you have your answer right there. If you authentically are not passionate about restorative, then you know what? That's not for you. And I guarantee there is another teacher who is passionate about restorative. And so perhaps you can find them to partner up with and co-teach a class, you know, or an event or a workshop, or just be able to say, hey, you know what? I am actually not a restorative teacher, and I so appreciate you asking. It's a beautiful format. I recommend this teacher, because it's all community over competition. And I so love being able to be a connecting thread in the yoga space and say, hey, you know what? I know that I'm not for everyone, and that's okay, but maybe this person is. Or I actually don't specialize in that modality, but you know who is great at it? So yes, Elizabeth, always stay true to you, babe. Don't worry about if you get asked a lot about restorative. That's okay. If it's not for you, it's not for you. I hope that helps. And also, when people are asking you a lot about, just one quick follow-up, if people are asking you, that's great, because it means that they love you, that they feel safe and comfortable in coming up and sharing their feedback. So perhaps you can turn it back on them and say, how else can I show up for you more? Or what else would you like to see? What from my current offerings do you most enjoy? Maybe I can offer more of that. All right. And then Loretta, I love that you were just starting out and that you haven't taught a class yet, or a public class. And this has been really thought-provoking for you to help develop your offerings. I think that's awesome. So thank you for sharing that. Elizabeth, is a cutesy name or gimmicky wise, or should a brand be very zen? I would say there's no parameters outside of, obviously, let's be mindful of the community and not be offensive to anyone. But outside of those parameters, whatever speaks to you and you authentically, please go with that. So if it's cutesy, you know, or gimmicky and you love it and that speaks to you, awesome, go for it. It really boils down to, like we talked about today, our messaging and what most resonates for you that's in alignment with your offerings. So whatever it is, like these names that you're considering in your mind, as long as they accurately and authentically align with you and what you offer as a teacher, then you can't go wrong. And I hope that helps, but that's a great question. And then how much are you charging for web? Yeah, online teaching is such a wide scale in terms of compensation, and it really depends on a lot of factors. Are you teaching on Zoom and it's more casual? Do you have a gated membership platform and you're offering more community, more support outside the class? Then that would be a higher value. I have seen the sliding scale of rates for online classes grow very, very wide, very wide. So on average, I see most people, well, it's really hard to answer actually. If you want to clarify what type of class that might help, but I would definitely recommend, for time's sake, because I know we're running out of time here, I would definitely recommend comparing what you're seeing other similar type classes in the industry being priced at, meaning if you're offering Zoom classes, if you have a gated platform, if you're on YouTube, you know what I mean? And kind of look accordingly. Lots of them, I could go on and on, but I'm seeing more and more questions come through. So I hope that was a helpful start. Ramona, do you recommend necessarily taking down all previous Instagram posts, for example? It's not that they are not aligned, but perhaps weren't focused on promoting the business classes or classes which is about to expand. Awesome. Congrats on your business and your classes expanding. And it's not that they are not aligned. If your Instagram posts are not aligned, then I say don't worry about it, unless you really wanted to completely make over your page and the things in the past don't really feel like they fit anymore. I would say don't overthink that part. Don't, spend so much time on it, because you've already spent time and put it into the posts. And so therefore, if they are not out of alignment, I would just say, you know what, leave them. And then from here going forward, create your new format, your new structure, and stay consistent going forward. It's Instagram. It'll go down quick enough and be, ancient news in no time, if that makes sense. So just focus on moving forward. I do think that's a better use of your time.
Ashton, we are kind of out of time, but if you have the few more minutes to do the questions, great. If not, we can kind of wrap up and I can send you these questions and we can get those answers to the ones we missed.
Perfect. Yes, yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Lizzie. I just quickly scrolled through and I think all of them have been just about addressed, minus thank you, Rachel, for asking, will you tell us how to contact you? Yes, Rachel, I will. Lizzie, would you mind chatting them my information, please?
Yeah.
And then
is your email okay, or would you prefer your Instagram,
how
website?
About okay. Yeah, all of them. Please, because everyone, I would really love to stay connected. And if this workshop resonated with you, I would love to hear about it. I would love to hear any feedback, of course. And I would love to remain connected. It's a wonderful global community and virtual community. And it really fills me up to connect with teachers like you. So thank you. And please do